So, welcome back to the session once again. And today we are going to cover Indes 16, which is on property, plant, and equipment. Obviously, 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 this is a very relevant, very pertinent, very important index in the entire gamut of in the entire family of the index. And why it is so important, why it is so critical, is primarily for any organization, and we are talking about primarily the manufacturing organization. The property, plant, and equipment is the significant part of the investment of the entire entity. And it is with the use of this investment, it is with the use of the property, plant, and equipment, a business runs its operations, a business makes profit, a business generates cash, and using that cash, the business ensures further growth for itself. And therefore, a good understanding of Index 16 becomes very critical, and therefore, Index 16 per se also becomes very critical. As always, we need to look at Index 16 in the context of the framework, and in the context of framework, when we look at the Index 16, we realize that if there are inconsistencies in the accounting of the property, plant, and equipment, and you will notice there are many areas where there is a possibility that there may be inconsistencies in the accounting of the property, plant, and equipment. In that case, the financial statements of the business will not reflect the correct position, and therefore, the user of the financial statements will not be able to make right economic decision. He will not be able to do the right evaluation. And that is the reason why we have in the family of the indices this Index 1616, which is on property, plant, and equipment. As usual, we are going to discuss this index very extensively, covering each and every aspect of it. And what we are going to cover uh, as part of this index is number one, we start with the PPP, PPE, and its significance in the financial statements of an entity vis-a-vis the framework, which I have already explained to you as to why adherence with why Index 16 is required, number one, and number two, why adherence with Index 16 is very necessary for the accounting professionals and for the finance professionals. We go to the number two and we look at some of the important definitions in the domain of Index 16, and there are many of them. There are many of them because Index 16 comprise of many things. It comprise of recognition, measurement, derecognition, depreciation, impairment. It comprises of the cost model, it comprises of the revaluation model, it comprises of a situation where the PPE is acquired in exchange of another asset. So in all this environment, there are many terms that we need to understand. So we look at those definitions. Then we come to the initial recognition and the measurement. And what is initial recognition? Initial recognition is when the first time a property, plant, and equipment is recognized in the books. That means it is taken on the records of the company. And measurement, that is at what amount. So we look at the initial recognition and the measurement of the property, plant, and equipment first time when it happens. Then when you talk in terms of measurement, obviously you need to talk in terms of the cost and the cost components. So after discussing the recognition and the measurement, we would look at what are the initial costs and what are the cost components of property, plant, and equipment. We will be looking at all these various aspects of the costing, because ultimately what is going to be really important is the amount which is recorded in the books as PPE. And why I am saying so at this point in time? Because there is a possibility. There is a possibility that the confusion can happen. Say, for example, confusion can happen with regard to the spare parts. So, are these spare parts also to be recognized as PPE, or they need to be recognized as inventory? The confusion can also happen with regard to the cost of training of the employees to operate on those equipments. So, is this got to be part of the property, plant and equipment? Is it going to be the cost of the property, plant and equipment, or it is to be debited to the profit and loss account as the training expenses? So we look at each and every initial cost and the cost components of property, plant and equipment. And in the process, we understand the accounting treatment of the spare parts, of standby equipment and the servicing equipment. Thereafter, we shift our discussion to another point. And what that point is, remember, it is not that every time you will acquire a property, plant and equipment in exchange of money. There is also a possibility that you may acquire a property, plant and equipment in exchange of any other asset. So अगर आप एक प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट एक्वायर कर रहे हो in exchange of other asset of yours, in that case, what should you take the measurement of the PPE that you are acquiring? In that case, at what cost you should show this property, plant and equipment that you are acquiring in your business, because you're not paying in cash. So if you are paying in cash, then it is quite obvious that whatever amount you pay, that becomes the measurement of that PPE. Now what you're doing is you are exchanging an asset, you're giving an asset and getting another asset. So in that case, what should be the measurement at what price, at what amount this property, plant and equipment should reflect in your financial statements is what we would discuss. Then we look at the subsequent cost. Now what is subsequent cost? Subsequent cost is not that you incur the cost only when you purchase a property, plant and equipment. It is possible that in the course of the usage of that property, plant and equipment in future, you might incur certain substantial expenses on that property, plant and equipment. The question will arise कि ये जो आगे समय में, after you have initially recognized a property, plant and equipment in your business, after certain time when you incur massive expenditure on this property, plant and equipment, now how should you record, how should you recognize these expenses in your financial statements? Should you expense them off to P&L as a maintenance expense, or should you recognize these expenses also as part of the PPE and capitalize them together with the cost of the original property, plant and equipment? We will understand that as to what is subsequent cost and how do you do the accounting of subsequent costs. We will also see in terms of what are the subsequent measurement models. अब देखिए क्या होगा कि पहले साल में these standards provide, the Ind AS 1(6) on the property, plant and equipment provides that the initial recognition of a property, plant and equipment in your books is going to happen at the initial cost, at the cost which you are incurring. So that is going to be at the cost. But subsequently, the standard gives you an option of deciding between the two models. And what those two models are? Those two models are, number one, the cost model that you have used even for the initial recognition. And number two, the model can be the revaluation model. That means the standard provides and gives you an opportunity. Depending on your situation, you can decide whether you would like to continue with the cost model or you would like to shift to the revaluation model. If you would like to shift to the revaluation model, under what situation should you shift to the revaluation model? And what these two models are, how are they different with each other? Is it possible that anytime you want you shift to the revaluation model, or there are certain conditions attached to it, that only when these conditions are met, then only you can use the revaluation model. So this is what we will be discussing as to subsequent measurement models. Then of course we will look at the treatment of change in case of revaluation model. So remember, what is revaluation model at this point in time? Just for your quick understanding, revaluation model is that what you do, the property, plant and equipment, you will revalue that property, plant and equipment based on its fair value. How do you arrive at the fair value? We will discuss that, and we will understand as to what that fair value is. But as a result of revaluation, what can happen? Two things can happen. Number one, the fair value that you arrive at is going to be more than the carrying amount of the asset. And number two, the fair value that you have arrived at is going to be lesser than the carrying amount of the asset in your balance sheet. So in both these situations, you will need to deal with them in your books and do the proper accounting. So what will be the accounting in case if the fair value is more than the carrying amount? What will be the accounting in case if the fair value of the property, plant and equipment is less than the carrying amount? How would you treat in your books? That is what we would look at. Then of course we look at the depreciation method. Of course, when you talk in terms of the property, plant and equipment, depreciation becomes critical. And again, remember, for the same reason, because in any business, property, plant and equipment is the major investment component in the balance sheet of any manufacturing company. And therefore, higher the amount of the property, plant and equipment in the balance sheet of a company, everything else being the same, higher is going to be the cost of depreciation. So how do you account for the depreciation under Ind AS 116? What are the methods available for computing depreciation under Ind AS 116? And that is what we would be looking at, the different methods of depreciation. Then Ind AS 1 also has got a very interesting feature, and that is a componentization of depreciation. Now, what is componentization of depreciation? How does it impact your balance sheet? How does it impact your profit and loss statement? How is the componentization of depreciation is done? This is what we will understand as regards the point number 11. Then we come to the point number 12, and that is what is impairment and how it is measured. See, impairment at this point in time, as I always do, I would do now as well. The impairment is when the recoverable amount of a property, plant and equipment is less than the carrying amount of that asset in the balance sheet, there is an impairment. क्या मतलब है कहने का कि जब एक एसेट की जो रिकवरेबल अमाउंट है वो उसकी कैरिंग अमाउंट से अगर कम है, इसका मतलब दिस इज द केस ऑफ impairment. That means this asset has got impaired, and therefore this impairment has to be recorded in the books of the entity, and this impairment of course is going to hit the P&L of the entity. So how to do the accounting of impairment? What is impairment? What are the consequences of impairment? Can the impairment once recorded be reversed in future? And if it can be reversed in future, under what situations it can be reversed in future? This is what we will be looking at in terms of point number 12. Then of course you have what is a derecognition. So as you have recognition, so when you start the property, plant and equipment accounting with the recognition, so obviously it will have to end with derecognition. That means once an asset has lived its life, or if this asset is given to somebody or disposed of to somebody, in that case it will need to be derecognized. I can give you an example of impairment of an asset. Let's say you have a machine, and that machine is, you are carrying that machine currently at an amount of, let's say, 1 crore. So you have a machine and you are carrying that machine in your balance sheet at 1 crore. Now, because of the change in the technology, or because of introduction of another product by your competitor, what is going to happen is the present value of the future cash flows that you will earn from the use of this machine is going to be less than 1 crore. सो अब देखिए, यानी कि 1 करोड़ की मशीन है आपकी बैलेंस शीट में, वो उसकी कैरिंग अमाउंट है. इस मशीन को यूज करके over, let's say the life of the machine is 10 years. So when you use this machine for 10 years, you will earn cash flow in next 10 years, and the present value of this cash flow, let's say, is coming to 80 lakhs. और अगर आज की तारीख में आप इस मशीन को मार्केट में बेचने जाएं, you are going to get, let's say, 90 lakhs. So what is the situation? The situation is the carrying amount is 1 crore, present value of future cash flow is 80 lakhs, and if you want to sell it off, then you will get net 90 lakhs. After adjusting the expenses that you incur on the sale of this asset, you will get 90 lakhs. That means here is a case of impairment. Why there is a case of impairment? Because the carrying amount of the asset is less, is more than the recoverable amount. What is the recoverable amount? Recoverable amount is higher of the present value of the future cash flows and the net realizable value. So the net realizable value is 90 lakhs, present value of future cash flow is 80 lakhs. So therefore the higher of these two, 90 lakhs is the recoverable amount. So the recoverable amount is 90 lakhs, carrying amount is 1 crore, and therefore there is an impairment of 10 lakhs with respect to this particular property, plant and equipment. And that is what you need to understand, and I'm sure this example would help you to understand as to what is impairment. And obviously this 10 lakh is going to hit your P&L as a cost. Okay, so and then as I said, that we look at the derecognition, and after the derecognition, remember, we come to the disclosure. So disclosure, remember, under Ind AS are very important. Why? Because framework, and I want to repeat it time and again purposely, because मैं चाहता हूँ कि एक चीज़ आपके दिमाग में पक्की तरीके से बैठ जाए कि Ind AS का मकसद क्या है. Ind AS का मकसद ये है कि आपका जो यूज़र है, user of your entity, he should get information in the financial statements in such a way so that he is able to evaluate performance of your business. He is able to evaluate the performance of your business with regard to the financial performance, with regard to the operational performance, with regard to the financial position, that is your balance sheet, and with regard to the cash flow. And that's where disclosures become very, very important. And remember, as a proactive professional, as a proactive company, what you need to look at when it comes to the disclosure, you should not look at the disclosure only in terms of what they are prescribed in the Ind AS. You must always go beyond what has been prescribed in the Ind AS. And if you think that by giving some additional information, additional disclosure, it is going to help the user of your financial statements, then you must always make sure that you do it. Right, friends? So this is the agenda that we have for today's session, and my whole idea of explaining the entire agenda with you is to prepare the background in your mind, in your thought process, so that by giving you this boundary, by explaining all these items, I am just trying to create a vacuum in your system, in your memory, in your brain, in your mind, so that जब हम ये सारे कंसेप्ट अब डिस्कस करेंगे एक एक करके, तो बड़ी आसानी से आप उनको ग्रेस्प कर सकें, बिकॉज मैंने आपको उनके बारे में थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड पहले ही दे दिया है. सो सबसे पहले हम देखेंगे कि ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, what is the objective of Ind AS 16 on property, plant and equipment. तो जैसा कि मैंने पहले आपको बताया, the objective of the Ind AS on property, plant and equipment is to help the user of your financial statements to make well-informed economic decisions, isn't it? So that is the obvious objective. वरना अगर ये आपके जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स का यूज़र है, अगर उसको ये डिसीजन लेने को नहीं आएगा, तो फिर फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बनाने का कोई मतलब नहीं है, फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बनाने का कोई अर्थ नहीं है, फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बनाने का कोई मीनिंग नहीं है. सो दैट इज दी ऑब्जेक्टिव कि इंडेस 16 का क्या ऑब्जेक्टिव है. इंडेस 16 का ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है टू प्रेस्क्राइब द अकाउंटिंग ट्रीटमेंट with regard to the property, plant and equipment, so that you are able to present your financials relating to the property, plant and equipment in such a way so that the user of your financial statements is able to take a well-informed economic decision. What are the principal issues when it comes to the accounting of property, plant and equipment? So the principal issues when it comes to the accounting of property, plant and equipment, number one is recognition of the assets, number two is measurement of property, plant and equipment, that is at what amount should you record them in the financials. Third is determination of their carrying amount. So what should be the carrying amount of a property, plant and equipment? Should it be based on the cost model or should it be based on the revaluation model? And then of course what should be the depreciation charges and impairment losses to be recognized, and finally of course disclosure. So these are the issues, principal issues friends, in case of the Indes 116 accounting of the property, plant and equipment. Let us look at some of the key definitions. So look at some of the key definitions. Number one is depreciable amount. Is very simple. So what is the depreciable amount? Depreciable amount is the value of the asset minus the accumulated depreciation for all the years since the asset has been with you. Whatever remains, that is your depreciable amount. So what is depreciable amount? Depreciable amount is the amount on which you will be charging depreciation in the books of your entity. So that is depreciable amount. What is depreciation? Of course, is very simple. We know it very well. Day in and day out, we use it in our business. So depreciation is a systematic. Depreciation is a systematic charging of cost of the asset to the P&L, which is linked with the usage of the asset over its useful life, and that is depreciation. Depreciation, friends, as we all know, is a non-cash expense. And why it is non-cash expense? Because there is no outflow of cash on account of depreciation. So it is always referred as a non-cash expense. Fair value. So what is fair value, friends? Is very very interesting. What is fair value? I have seen. Whenever I am discussing with many people, they always have a confusion about the fair value. And I have seen different people have different conception, different understanding of the term fair value. And what is fair value? Where the definition of fair value is very simple. So what is fair value? Fair value यानी कि सही कीमत. सही कीमत. तो क्या है सही कीमत? सही कीमत यह है a price or an amount at which two willing buyer and seller are prepared to do a transaction at an arm's length. So what does it mean? Buyer खरीदने को तैयार है, सेलर बेचने को तैयार है. उन दोनों के बीच में और कोई दूसरा कंसिडरेशन नहीं है. वो एक दूसरे के रिश्तेदार नहीं है, एक दूसरे के जान पहचान वाले नहीं हैं, और इस ट्रांजैक्शन के अलावा और वो कोई ट्रांजैक्शन नहीं कर रहे हैं. बायर कोई प्रेशर में नहीं है, सेलर कोई प्रेशर में नहीं है. एंड व्हेन दे डू अ ट्रांजैक्शन, दैट इज रेफर्ड एज फेयर वैल्यू. सो फेयर वैल्यू का मतलब ये है सही कीमत. So that is the fair value, and this is the definition of the fair value. Fair, and please just remember, as simple as that, fair value, सही कीमत. और सही कीमत क्या है कि ऐसी प्राइस जिस प्राइस के ऊपर कोई भी उस एसेट को खरीदने के लिए तैयार हो जाए, कोई भी उस एसेट को बेचने के लिए तैयार हो जाए. So that is, and which is agreeable to both the buyers and the sellers. Neither the buyer is under any kind of pressure, nor the seller is under any kind of pressure. That is your fair value, and that becomes relevant in our case because when under Indes, when you want to shift from the cost model to the revaluation model, remember you can go to the revaluation model only if you are able to ascertain fair value of this property, plant and equipment. If you cannot ascertain the fair value of the property, plant and equipment, remember you cannot shift to the revaluation model. And then we look at the definition of property, plant and equipment, which of course is quite understood. So property, plant and equipment are tangible assets. Tangible का मतलब ये है something that you can touch, you can feel and you can see. So the property, plant and equipment are tangible assets which are used for the purpose of production or supply of goods or services, or for rental to others, or for administrative purposes. And generally, not generally, as a matter of fact, as a rule, property, plant and equipments are something that will be giving you benefit over a longer period. So property, plant and equipments are the ones that will give you enduring benefits. So when I say enduring benefits, what does it mean? It means that these assets are going to be available with you for a longer period of time. So this is the definition of property, plant and equipment. एक बार फिर से बताऊंगा कि property, plant and equipment क्या है. Property, plant and equipment का मतलब है वो tangible asset जो आपके बिजनेस में है. इस एसेट का आप इस्तेमाल करते हो. किस चीज़ के लिए इस्तेमाल करते हो? इस एसेट का आप इस्तेमाल करते हो प्रोडक्शन करने के लिए. इस एसेट का इस्तेमाल करते हो सर्विसेज सप्लाई करने के लिए. इस एसेट का इस्तेमाल करते हो दूसरों को रेंट पे देने के लिए. इस एसेट का इस्तेमाल करते हो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव वर्क के लिए फॉर योर बिजनेस. एंड जनरली, not generally, always, a property, plant and equipment will have a life which is longer than 1 year. So this is the definition of property, plant and equipment. With this definition, we come to the next item of our discussion, and that is recognition and measurement. तो आपकी जानकारी के लिए थोड़ा सा बता दूं, रिकॉग्निशन का मतलब क्या है. देखो, एक जनरली क्या होता है, जब आप इंडेक्स पढ़ने बैठो तो इंडेक्स की जो लैंग्वेज है वो इतनी कॉम्प्लेक्स है कि आदमी को डिस्करेजमेंट होता है उसको पढ़ने में. आदमी को थोड़ा सा दिक्कत होती है पढ़ने में. जब वो डिस्करेजमेंट होता है तो एक साइकोलॉजिकल बैरियर पैदा होता है, और जब वो साइकोलॉजिकल बैरियर पैदा होता है तो आदमी फिर आगे बढ़ नहीं पाता है. बट अगर ये सारी चीज़ों को सिंप्लीफाई कर दिया जाए, जो कि मेरी कोशिश है आपके साथ में ये डिस्कशन करते समय, तो फिर इंडेक्स को पढ़ना आसान हो जाता है. और याद रखिए, अगर आप एक अकाउंटिंग प्रोफेशनल हैं, अगर आप एक फाइनेंस प्रोफेशनल हैं, अगर आप एक बिजनेसमैन हैं, तो आपको अकाउंटिंग की और स्टैंडर्ड्स की जानकारी ज़रूरी है. मैं नहीं कहता हूं कि आपको उनके कंप्लायंस के लिए जानना ज़रूरी है, पर आपको इतना तो जानना ज़रूरी है कि भाई किस चीज़ में क्या क्या है, किस स्टैंडर्ड में क्या दिया हुआ है, उसके क्या इम्प्लीकेशन है आपके बिजनेस के लिए. तो रिकॉग्निशन का मतलब क्या है? रिकॉग्निशन का सिंपल सा मतलब है कि एक प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट आपने एक्वायर किया. नाउ यू आर रिकॉर्डिंग इट इन योर बुक्स. So when you're recording it in your books, that is referred as recognition, right? So recording a property, plant and equipment in your books, that is recognition. Measurement का क्या मतलब है? Sorry, measurement का क्या मतलब है? Measurement का मतलब है to assign a value to it. To assign a value to it. So remember, if you're recognizing an asset in your books, obviously you can record in your books at an amount. So when you fix that amount, that is measurement. And that is what we are going to now discuss in detail. So first of all, let's understand what are the conditions for initial recognitions. तो देखिए, जैसा मैंने आपसे पहले कहा, थोड़ी देर पहले कहा कि रिकॉग्निशन दो तरह का होगा. कैसे? एक तो इनिशियल रिकॉग्निशन होगा और एक सब्सिक्वेंट रिकॉग्निशन होगा. इनिशियल रिकॉग्निशन का मतलब क्या है? इनिशियल रिकॉग्निशन का मतलब है कि जब आप एक एसेट को पहली बार आपकी बुक्स में ले रहे हैं, दैट इज इनिशियल रिकॉग्निशन. सब्सिक्वेंट रिकॉग्निशन का क्या मतलब है? सब्सिक्वेंट रिकॉग्निशन का मतलब यह है कि एक बार आपने एक एसेट को आपके बुक्स में ले लिया, उसके बाद अगले फाइनेंशियल ईयर में, अगले से अगले फाइनेंशियल ईयर में, अगले से अगले फाइनेंशियल ईयर में, फॉर ऑल द फाइनेंशियल ईयर्स टू कम, अगेन यू विल नीड टू रिकॉग्नाइज दीज assets in your books, and that is referred as subsequent recognition. So what are the conditions in case of the initial recognition? यानी कि पहली बार जब आप कोई एसेट को अपने बुक्स में लेना चाह रहे हैं तो क्या कंडीशन है? अब देखिए, दो कंडीशन है और दोनों कंडीशन बहुत सिंपल हैं. पहली कंडीशन क्या है? पहली कंडीशन ये है, देयर मस्ट बी अ प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ फ्यूचर इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स टू फ्लो फ्रॉम द एसेट. दैट इज कंडीशन नंबर 1. इन सिंपल वर्ड्स में अगर मैं कहूं कि जो एसेट आप अपने बुक्स में लेना चाह रहे हो, उस बुक से आपको इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स मिलने की पॉसिबिलिटी होना चाहिए. अगर आपको एक एसेट से इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स मिलने वाले नहीं हैं, तो फिर इस एसेट का आपकी बुक में रिकॉर्ड करके कोई मतलब नहीं है. बिकॉज what will it signify? It will not signify anything. Because if an asset, and please pay attention, if an asset is not going to give you any value, then that asset is worth zero. And when something is worth zero, what is the point in recognizing that asset in your books? So the first condition, remember, in recognition of any asset is that there must be a definite possibility of economic benefits flowing to your business from that asset. यहाँ पर एक चीज़ और मैं क्लियर करना चाहूँगा, वो ये कि देखिए इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स का क्या मतलब है, ये आपको समझना जरूरी है. इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स का मतलब ये नहीं है कि इस एसेट से आपको कैश फ्लो आना चाहिए. दैट इज नॉट the only meaning of the economic benefits. Please remember, economic benefits is a much wider a term. It is much wider a term. और economic benefits का मतलब क्या है? economic benefits का मतलब ये है कि आपके business को monetary benefits और non-monetary benefits should flow from this asset. Should flow from this asset. Now, I would like to give you an example here. Let's say you are a chemical company. As a chemical company, you are under an obligation as per the Government of India regulations that you have to have a effluent treatment plant installed in your factory premises. Now you install if the pollution treatment plant or effluent treatment plant, investing 5 crores in your business, in your premises. Now this effluent treatment plant is only going to treat the effluent. It is not going to give you any cash flow. Does it mean that this effluent treatment plant has got no economic benefits flowing to you? The answer is no. Even if the effluent treatment plant is not resulting in any cash inflow for you, it is still giving you economic benefits. So what are the economic benefits it is giving to you? Number one, because of this effluent treatment plant, you are able to escape the penalties that the government would have levied onto you because your failure to not have the effluent treatment plant in your place. Number two, it is also possible that the law may be so stringent that if you do not have this effluent treatment plant in your premises, the government may put a lock on your factory. They will not let you allow to do the production unless and until you have this effluent treatment plant in your place. So therefore, please remember, economic benefit is a wider term. It does not have to be interpreted only in terms of flow of cash. It is also to be interpreted in terms of wider perspective. So this is what I thought I would explain. So that is the rule number one, that is probability of the future economic benefits flowing to the entity. And number two, the cost of the asset should be measured reliably. सीधी सी बात है कि अगर आप एक एसेट को आपके बुक्स में रिकॉर्ड करना चाह रहे हो और अगर आप इस एसेट को अपनी बुक्स में रिकॉर्ड करना चाह रहे हो तो यू कैन रिकॉर्ड इट ओनली एट अ वैल्यू, एट एन अमाउंट. सो only if you are able to reliably measure the value of this asset, you would be able to recognize that asset in your book. So that is the second condition. So when these two conditions are fulfilled, number one, there is a definite probability of economic benefits flowing to the entity, and number two, the cost or the value of the asset should be reliably measured. So when these two conditions are met, in that case the asset will be recognized in the books of the entity. Now in the context of the property, plant and equipment, we have to understand one more thing. अब देखिए, जब आप कोई प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट खरीदते हैं तो आई एम श्योर इट मस्ट हैव बीन योर एक्सपीरियंस एंड यू मस्ट हैव सीन दैट नॉट ओनली यू गेट the property, plant and equipment, but you also get some spare parts. You also get some specific spare parts which are also the servicing equipment. So the question is, how do you recognize these spare parts in your financials? How do you recognize the major spare parts and the standby equipments in your financials? So that is what we need to understand, because there is a possibility that entity may mistake in recognizing spare parts as the property, plant and equipment. That be right. So how this accounting should be done? What we need to remember is, number one, if it is a spare part, if it is purely a spare part, just part, it will be recorded in the book of the entity in the end. अगर आपने कोई स्पेयर पार्ट खरीदा है तो वो स्पेयर पार्ट डायरेक्टली उसकी जो कॉस्ट है वो P&L को जाएगी. कोई मेजर स्पेयर पार्ट है या कोई स्टैंड बाय इक्विपमेंट है, तो वो कहाँ जाएगा? दैट विल बी रिकॉग्नाइज एट द प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट. सो मेजर स्पेयर पार्ट है, ऐसा स्पेयर पार्ट है विच इज इंटीग्रल टू द प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट, और इक्विपमेंट है that also will be recognized in the books of the entity as a property plant and equipment. And the third situation is where you have some specific spare parts and the servicing equipment. Now such specific spare parts and the servicing equipment will also be recognized in the books of the entity as property plant and equipment. So this is friends about the conditions for the initial recognition of the property plant and equipment. So before I move to the next one, quick summary. So there are two rules. So initial recognition के लिए, for the initial recognition of the property plant and equipment in the books of the entity, there are two rules. Rule number one is there must be a probability of economic benefits to flow to the entity. And please remember, economic benefits does not mean only cash flow. Economic benefit would mean many things, and those many things, so if the property PPE, property plant and equipment, is not going to give you cash inflow, but it is going to save you cost, so the saving of the cost by the property plant and equipment is also an economic benefit which is flowing to the entity. And the rule number two is you should be able to reliably measure the cost of the property plant and equipment. If these two rules are met, then that property plant and equipment will be recognized in the financial statements of the entity. Now as we discussed, how will the initial recognition and the measurement will happen? Number one, please remember, initial recognition of an item of the property plant and equipment invariably will be at cost. क्या मतलब है कहने का मतलब यह है कि जब भी आप कोई प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट अपनी कंपनी में खरीदेंगे, तो उसका जो इनिशियल रिकॉग्निशन है, यानी कि उसकी जो इनिशियल अकाउंटिंग है आपकी बुक्स में, it will always be at cost. And why it will be always be at cost? Because to get this property plant and equipment, you are paying a cost. So the cost that you are paying is going to be the amount at which this asset will be recognized in your books, and that is your initial recognition, and that is at cost. But remember, cost does not mean only the cost of the asset that you are purchasing. Cost will also mean certain incidental expenses that you incur in bringing this property plant and equipment from the supplier's godown or from the supplier's factory to your own factory. Not only you incur the cost in getting this property plant equipment from the supplier's factory to your factory, but you also incur a lot of expenses in getting it installed, getting it commissioned, and so on and so forth. And all those costs will also form part of your part of cost of the property plant and equipment of your entity, and that is what you must remember. But there are certain exceptions. There are certain exceptions when an asset may not be recognized in the books at the cost. Now, what are those exceptions? Those exceptions are two. Number one, it is possible that you are acquiring an asset as part of a business combination. So what does it mean? It means you have purchased another company, right? You are purchasing the entire company, and as the purchase of the entire company, all the assets of that company are merging into your company. So all the assets of that company are being acquired by you. And remember what you're doing, you're not paying the price to the selling company item wise. You're making a lump sum payment, and that payment can be in the form of cash, or that payment can be in the form of shares. So let's say that payment is in the form of shares. So all the assets you are getting as part of the deal, and you're making the payment in terms of the shares. Now what you will need to do, you will need to record or recognize this asset not based on the initial cost that you have incurred. It will be based on the fair value, because you will need to find out कि ये जो एसेट हमको आई है एज पार्ट ऑफ द मर्जर और एक्विजिशन और अमलगमेशन, what is the fair value of this asset, and you will recognize all the assets that you are getting, all the property, plant and equipments that you are getting as a result of this merger will be recorded in your books at the fair value. That's exception number one. Exception number two, it is also possible that you are getting a property, plant and equipment not in exchange of money but in exchange of another asset. So when you are getting a property, plant and equipment in exchange of another asset, this asset that you are acquiring will be this property, plant and equipment that you are acquiring will be recorded or will be recognized in your books based on the fair value. Fair value of what? Fair value of the asset that you are getting, or the fair value of the fair value of the asset that you are giving. And you'll be surprised, rather you should not be surprised, it's going to be based on the fair value of the asset that you are giving. Assuming that the asset that you are giving can be, the fair value can be ascertained. If the asset that you are giving for getting the property, plant and equipment, अगर जो आप एसेट दे रहे हो और उसकी फेयर वैल्यू किसी कारण से एस्टेब्लिश नहीं करी जा सकती है, then the cost of this asset that you are getting will be equal to the carrying amount of the asset that you are giving. So these are the two exceptions, friends, where initial recognition may not happen at the cost. So I'm summing it up. So in general, initial recognition will be at cost, but there are two exceptions. Exception number one, when you are getting the asset first time by virtue of business combination, or when you are getting the asset by virtue of in exchange of another asset. So with this, let's go to the next one, and the next one is what are the elements of cost? We understand any asset that we have to recognize in our books has to be at cost, but what cost? What are going to be the cost elements? And as I said earlier, the cost element is going to be number one, the purchase price, the price at which you are paying for the purchase of this property, plant and equipment. Now not only you will have to take the purchase price, but you will also have to take certain costs which are directly attributable to the property, plant and equipment that you are acquiring. Now what does it mean? It means जब आप एक कोई प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट खरीद रहे हो तो उसको ऑपरेशनलाइज करने तक बहुत सारे खर्चे होते हैं. ट्रांसपोर्ट पे खर्चा होगा, फ्रेट पे खर्चा होगा, इंश्योरेंस पे खर्चा होगा, और उसको फैक्ट्री में लाके उसको इंस्टॉलेशन पे खर्चा होगा, उसकी कमीशनिंग पे खर्चा होगा. सो ऑल दोज एक्सपेंसेस आर टू बी पार्ट ऑफ द cost of the property, plant and equipment, and the Ind AS 116 specifies very clearly as to what are the expenses, what are the cost elements that will be added to the cost of the property, plant and equipment. Not only it talks in terms of what are the items that would be included in the cost of the property, plant and equipment, it also talks very clearly as to what are the items that will not form part of the cost of the property, plant and equipment. So let me tell you, in addition to the purchase price of the property, plant and equipment that you are getting, what are the other costs that you need to add to this purchase price so as to arrive at the total cost of the equipment which can be recognized in your books is number one, the employee cost arising from construction or acquisition of the item of property, plant and equipment. That is number one. So the employee cost with regard to the construction or acquisition of the asset that we are talking about, the PPE that we are talking about. Cost of site preparation. So whatever expense that you incur on the preparation of the site for this property, plant and equipment to be installed, it will be part of your cost of the property, plant and equipment. Initial delivery and the handling cost. तो वो मशीन जो आप ले रहे हैं, तो वो जो सप्लायर है उसकी फैक्ट्री से आपके यहाँ तक आने में आप खर्चा करेंगे, उस पर इंश्योरेंस करना पड़ेगा, फ्रेट करना पड़ेगा, तो वो सारे खर्चे करने पड़ेंगे. तो वो सारे खर्चे जो भी होंगे, दे विल बी पार्ट ऑफ द cost of the property, plant and equipment. Then the installation and assembly cost will be added to the cost of the property, plant and equipment. And cost of testing whether the asset is functioning properly or not will also be part of the cost of the property, plant and equipment. Remember, so आपने एक एसेट इंस्टॉल कर दी, सब कुछ तैयार है, अब उसकी टेस्टिंग तो करनी पड़ेगी, क्योंकि जब तक आप टेस्टिंग करोगे नहीं और पक्का नहीं होगा कि भाई ये सब तरह से ठीक है, तब तक आप उसको कमर्शियली आप उसको यूज करना शुरू नहीं कर सकते हैं. So whatever cost and the expenses that you will incur on the testing of the asset or the property, plant and equipment will also be the part of your part of the cost of the property, plant and equipment and the professional fees. तो ये सारा करने के लिए ये सारा जो प्रोजेक्ट उसको एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए it is possible that you might incur some professional fees, because ultimately it's an activity that needs expertise, that needs skills, that needs definite amount of understanding of the entire activity. तो उसके लिए आप किसी को प्रोफेशनल फीस पे करते हैं, तो वो जो प्रोफेशनल फीस आप पे करते हैं that will also be part of your cost of the property, plant and equipment. अब मैं आपको ये और बता दूं कि कौन कौन से आइटम्स which are the expenses that you cannot load onto the cost of the property, plant and equipment. Now Ind AS 116 on the property, plant and equipment very clearly speaks as to which are the costs that will not forming part of the cost of the property, plant and equipment. The cost number one is cost of launching. तो जो आप प्रोडक्ट बना रहे हो और वो प्रोडक्ट को आप लॉन्च करने पे जो खर्चा करोगे, तो वो प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च की जो कॉस्ट है यू कैन नॉट लोड इट टू द कॉस्ट ऑफ द प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट. एक्सपेंसेस ऑन ओपनिंग अ न्यू बिजनेस, आप एक नया बिजनेस खोल रहे हो और उस नए बिजनेस को खोलने के लिए जो भी आप खर्चे कर रहे हो वो खर्चों को भी आप प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट, इक्विपमेंट में ऐड नहीं कर सकते हो. ट्रेनिंग कॉस्ट, सो आपने प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट लेके आए और उसको इंस्टॉल किया. अब ये कुछ वर्कर्स हैं, कुछ वर्कमैन हैं, कुछ लोग हैं, वो इस मशीन्स को ऑपरेट करेंगे. तो ये वो वर्कर्स इस मशीन को ऑपरेट करेंगे तो उनको ट्रेनिंग देने की जरूरत है. तो उनको जो आप ट्रेनिंग दोगे और वो ट्रेनिंग पे जो आप खर्चा करोगे, दैट ट्रेनिंग एक्सपेंस विल नॉट फॉर्म पार्ट ऑफ द प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट. इट विल हैव टू बी एक्सपेंस्ड डायरेक्टली टू द प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस. Cost of relocating. So in case you decide to shift your business from one place to another place. So when you decide to shift your business from one place to the another place, and whatever cost that you incur in the relocation, that will not form part of the property, plant and equipment. And finally friends, initial losses when the asset operates at low capacity. तो ऑब्वियसली आप नया बिजनेस चालू कर रहे हो, नई मशीन चालू कर रहे हो, तो शुरू में जो प्रोडक्शन होगा उसकी यील्ड कम होगी, उसकी क्वालिटी अच्छी नहीं होगी, उसकी प्राइस आपको बराबर नहीं मिलेगी, खर्चे ज़्यादा होंगे, रेवेन्यू कम होगा. तो शुरू में आप कुछ लॉस करोगे, तो वो लॉस ऑल्सो यू कैन नॉट डेबिट टू योर प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट कॉस्ट. सो दैट विल नीड टू बी डेल्ट विद सेपरेटली. सो फ्रेंड्स, these are the cost elements of a property, plant and equipment. So just to sum it up before I go to the next, what will be the cost of the property, plant and equipment? The cost of the property and plant and equipment is going to be number one, the purchase price of the property, plant and equipment. Other costs which are directly attributable to the property, plant and equipment. So these two put together, and of course one more thing that you will need to add, cost of removing and dismantling the asset. So not only you will need to, when you are doing when you are booking the property in the books, so not only you will take into account the purchase price, the costs which are directly attributable to this asset, but you will also take into account the cost of removing and dismantling the asset in future whenever that happens. So you will need to estimate as to how much you are going to spend on removing and dismantling of the asset when the asset is completely worn out. So that cost also you will need to take into account today when you are recognizing cost of this asset. And please remember, so when you are estimating the cost in future for the removal and dismantling, you do not have to add any inflation. So you only have to do it based on the current basis. So आज की तारीख में जो सिचुएशन है उसके हिसाब से जो कॉस्ट होगी आप उसको ऐड करोगे. तो ये तीनों कंपोनेंट्स को ऐड करोगे, दैट बिकम्स द कॉस्ट ऑफ द प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट. एंड इट इज एट दिस cost that the property, plant and equipment will be measured in your books at the time of initial recognition. Cost number one, purchase cost price. Number two, cost attributable directly to the property, plant and equipment. And three, cost of removing and dismantling of the asset. Now with this understanding, we go to the next, and just to give you a quick revision as to which are the cost components of initial cost components for the property, plant and equipment. One is the purchase price. Number two, cost of site preparation. 3, borrowing cost. 4, initial delivery and handling cost. 5, installation and assembly cost. 6, cost of testing and professional fees. Now these are the directly attributable cost to the purchase price. And then of course initial estimate of the cost of dismantling and removing the item and restoring the site on which it was located. अब इसमें खाली एक चीज बता दूं, एक नया आइटम जो आपने देखा होगा वो और सुना होगा, वो बोरोइंग कॉस्ट. Now what is borrowing cost? Of course we have a separate accounting standard, Ind AS 23, which is on the borrowing cost, and which I am going to cover with you on 7th of May. So tomorrow we will have a break. Tomorrow no session. We will have the next session on 7th May. On 7th May, when we meet, we would be discussing Ind AS 23 on the borrowing cost. So what is this borrowing cost that we are talking about here? I can just quickly tell you. Remember, when you are buying a new property, plant and equipment, it is possible that you are funding this property, plant and equipment with debt. So when this property, plant and equipment is being installed, so from the time, from the beginning till the time of commissioning, you may have taken a loan, and on this loan you would be paying interest. So whatever interest that you would pay on this debt that you have taken for acquiring this qualifying property, plant and equipment, this interest or this borrowing cost will not go to your P&L account. This borrowing cost or this interest will be added to the cost of the property, plant and equipment, and that is what is this borrowing cost. We will talk about more of the borrowing cost as a separate standard, that is Ind AS 23 on borrowing cost, on 7th May when we meet again. Now let's go to the next one. So how about recognition of spare parts, standby equipments and servicing equipment cost? अब देखिए, जब प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट की अकाउंटिंग की बात होती है तो कुछ डाउट्स होते हैं दिमाग में अकाउंटिंग के समय पे. वो डाउट हो सकता है कि स्पेयर पार्ट्स को कैसे रिकॉर्ड करें, या फिर स्टैंड बाय इक्विपमेंट है उसको कैसे रिकॉर्ड करें, और या फिर सर्विसिंग इक्विपमेंट कॉस्ट है उसको कैसे रिकॉग्नाइज करें. वेदर टू रिकॉग्नाइज दिस एज अ प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट, दैट मीन्स वेदर टू कैपिटलाइज इट or to treat it as an inventory and take it to P&L. So basically now what you will have to do, you will have to look at the item very closely and see as to what is its utility, what is its application, how it is going to benefit you, what is the functionality of the cost that you are talking about. So depending on the functionality of the item that you are talking about, you would be able to take a decision as to what to do with it. So what I will do is, number one, the clause 8 of Ind AS 16 on property, plant and equipment talks about it, and it says items such as spare parts, standby equipment and servicing equipment are recognized in accordance with this Ind AS when they meet the definition of property, plant and equipment. Otherwise, such items are classified as inventory. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to discuss few examples with you. And with the help of those examples, we are going to understand as to how to do the accounting of the spare parts, standby equipment and the servicing equipment. So here is the first example. A chemical manufacturer bought safety and environment protection equipment. So please remember, ये केमिकल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी है, और ये जो केमिकल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी है, इसने क्या खरीदा है? इसने खरीदा है सेफ्टी एंड एनवायरनमेंट प्रोटेक्शन इक्विपमेंट. As now, what is the use of the safety and environment protection equipment? Are they going to give you cash inflow? The answer is no. Because the safety and the environment protection equipment you will use in your business, of course, but they will not give you direct inflow of cash. Now, since these equipments will not give you direct inflow of cash, therefore the question is, should these equipments be capitalized or expensed off to P&L? Now, come back to the definition of the economic benefits that I discussed with you little while ago. Please remember, economic benefits does not necessarily mean cash inflow. Economic benefits is a wider term. So when I say wider term, it means it not only includes the cash inflow, but it also includes any other benefits that would accrue to the entity, which in one way or the other going to impact the financials directly or indirectly. So the safety and the environment protection equipment will give you the same benefits that I ascribed in the context of the effluent treatment plant in early part of our discussion. And therefore, remember, the safety and environment protection equipment will not have the cash flow, but because of them, you will be saving a lot of cost. So since you are saving a lot of cost, that cost becomes economic benefit to the entity. Since it becomes economic benefit to the entity, that means it will need to be capitalized. Why? Because safety and environment protection equipment, the rule number one, economic benefits are there. Number two, the value can be reliably measured. Obviously, you have purchased them. Since you have purchased them, you have paid a price for them. You have paid price of them. Then the question of the reliable measurability doesn't arise at all. So it is very much there, and therefore these equipments will be capitalized in the books of the entity. Second example, accounting treatment of spares. So let you pay attention here. So let's take the example of spare parts. Company M buys 5 new machines for use in its production facility. तो कंपनी M है और वो 5 नई मशीन खरीदती है उनके प्रोडक्शन में यूज करने के लिए. Simultaneously, it also purchases a spare motor to be used as a replacement if a motor on one of the 5 machines breaks. So the question is, should this spare motor be classified as property, plant and equipment? And the answer is no. Answer is no. And why the answer is no? Because this motor is only a spare motor. So it does not have any direct production utility or production functionality. It is to be used only as a spare. So since it is going to be used only as a spare, it doesn't fit into the definition of a property, plant and equipment, and therefore the spare motor that the company has purchased in this case will be recorded as an inventory item and not as a property, plant and equipment item. Then let's take an example of an item of property, plant and equipment as a backup. So a company in 2017 में एक कंपनी ने टरबाइन इंस्टॉल किया. In 2017 the company installed a turbine और 2019 में in 2019 the company bought another turbine as a backup in case the first one fails. सो 2017 में एक टरबाइन खरीदा, 2019 में दूसरा टरबाइन खरीदा, और दूसरा टरबाइन क्यों खरीदा? दूसरा टरबाइन इसलिए खरीदा एज अ बैकअप इन केस द फर्स्ट वन फेल्स. So the cost of the second turbine is nearly the same as the first one, and probability that it will be used is quite low. तो सेकेंड टर्बाइन खरीदा है लेकिन उसको यूज करने की प्रोबेबिलिटी कम है. सो देयरफॉर द कंपनी इज आस्किंग योर एडवाइस एज टू व्हाट शुड दिस कंपनी डू. शुड दिस टर्बाइन, सेकेंड टर्बाइन, बी कैपिटलाइज्ड एज एन आइटम ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट, or should it be recorded as part of the inventory? And the answer of course is the company has to do the capitalization of this turbine. Because why? Because this turbine has got the same production facility or ability which the first turbine has. So even if the company, the probability of using this particular turbine is less, but the probability is there. So at any point in time when the first turbine is not operating, this second turbine will be put to use, and therefore this second turbine has the economic benefits. And what are the economic benefits? The economic benefits are, in case if the first turbine fails and the operations stop, this second turbine will ensure that the operations do not stop. And since the operations do not stop, the revenue do not stop. Since they do not stop, that means there is economic benefit. And as a matter of the cost of you buy, you pay. So what is the cost of the second? So the condition is the property equipment in capital. That means recognized as part of the property, plant and equipment. Now measurement in case of acquisition of property, plant and equipment in exchange of अनदर एसेट. सो देखिए, शुरू में हमने चर्चा करी कि इनिशियल जो रिकॉग्निशन है किसी भी प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट का, वो आपकी बुक्स में कॉस्ट पर होगा. पर हमने डिस्कस किया कि दो एक्सेप्शंस हैं, और वो दो एक्सेप्शंस क्या हैं? वो पहला एक्सेप्शन ये है कि वो एक कॉम्बिनेशन में आया है. सो द इक्विपमेंट यू हैव गॉट पार्ट ऑफ बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन. द सेकेंड एक्सेप्शन दैट वी डिस्कस्ड, and that is the asset that you are getting is coming to you in exchange of another asset. तो एक मशीन आपके पास में आ रही है, आपके बिजनेस में आ रही है. And how this machine is coming in your business? This machine is coming in your business because in exchange you are giving another machine. And so the question now is, since you are not paying in cash, how to measure, how to find out the amount at which this property, plant and equipment should be recognized in your books? So how do you do it? Now for this, what you need to do is, number one, you need to look at how do you determine the cost of the asset acquired. तो पहले आप देखिए कि जो आप एसेट दे रहे हैं, ठीक है, सो यू आर गिविंग एन एसेट इन एक्सचेंज. सो चेक, हैज this asset some commercial substance and can the fair value be measured reliably? तो कहने का क्या मतलब है? कहने का मतलब यह है कि जो आप एसेट एक्सचेंज में दे रहे हो उसकी कुछ कमर्शियल वैल्यू है क्या, और उसकी अगर कुछ कमर्शियल वैल्यू है तो क्या उसकी फेयर वैल्यू डिटरमिन करी जा सकती है. एंड इफ द आंसर इज यस, द फेयर वैल्यू कैन बी डिटरमिन्ड, then please pay attention that then this property, plant and equipment which you are getting in your business in exchange of an asset that you are giving from your side, this property, plant and equipment will be recognized in your books at the fair value of the asset that you are giving. So that is situation number one. Situation number two, the asset that you are giving, it lacks commercial substance. That means उसकी commercial value कुछ ज़्यादा नहीं है. And that means it is not possible to ascertain the fair value of it. तो आप एसेट दे रहे हैं लेकिन उस एसेट की आप फेयर वैल्यू डिटरमिन नहीं कर सकते हैं. अगर आप उसकी फेयर वैल्यू डिटरमिन नहीं कर सकते हैं लेकिन उसके एक्सचेंज में आप एक एसेट आपके बिजनेस में आ रही है, तो सवाल यह है कि वो जो एसेट आपके बिजनेस में आ रही है उसको आप किस अमाउंट के ऊपर आपके बुक्स में रिकॉर्ड करोगे. एंड द आंसर इज यू विल रिकॉर्ड दैट एसेट विच इज कमिंग टू यू एज द कैरिंग अमाउंट ऑफ द एसेट दैट यू आर गिविंग, यानी कि जो एसेट आप दे रहे हो उसकी जो आपकी बुक्स में जो कॉस्ट दिख रही है, द न्यू एसेट दैट यू आर गेटिंग will be measured in your books, recognized in your books at the carrying cost of the asset that you are giving in exchange. So, to sum it up, when you get an asset in exchange of another asset which is going from your side, how will you determine the amount of the asset that you are getting? You will determine the amount of the asset that you are getting based on fair value of the asset that you are giving, and if the fair value is not determinable, in that case carrying amount of the asset that you are giving. So this is how you will record an asset which is coming in your books in exchange of another assets. Very good. So with this, now we go to the next item, and the next item is रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ सब्सिक्वेंट कॉस्ट. अब देखिए, ऐसा तो नहीं है कि आपने बिजनेस में एक मशीन ली और वो मशीन को आपने ऑपरेट करना शुरू किया और ऑपरेट करते रहे और बात ख़त्म हो गई. इन सम केसेस दैट इज़ पॉसिबल, बट इन मैनी केसेस इट मे नॉट बी पॉसिबल. लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल, यू आर ए स्टील मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी, and as a steel manufacturer what you have big furnaces. So आपके पास में big furnaces हैं और अब आपको क्या करना पड़ता है, ये furnaces को from time to time आपको उनकी relining करनी पड़ती है. So what is relining? That means after 3-4 years of use of that furnace आपको वो पूरी furnace को change करना पड़ता है, और जब आप उसको चेंज करते हो तो उस चेंज करने में आपको काफ़ी सारी कॉस्ट इनकर करनी पड़ती है. सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, द कॉस्ट दैट यू इनकर ऑन दिस फर्नेस आफ्टर द यूसेज ऑफ 3-4 years इज रेफर्ड एज सब्सिक्वेंट कॉस्ट. अब देखो, ये जो सब्सिक्वेंट कॉस्ट है ये दो तरह की हो सकती है. पहली क्या है? पहली ये है कि ये जो सब्सिक्वेंट कॉस्ट है ये जो रेगुलर मेंटेनेंस की है. तो नेचुरली आपके प्लांट एंड मशीनरी है आपकी कंपनी में, और कोई सी भी प्लांट एंड मशीनरी रहने दो तो आपको उसकी रिपेयर्स एंड मेंटेनेंस रेगुलरली करते रहना पड़ता है. तो वो जो आप मेंटेनेंस पे खर्चा करोगे, दैट इज अ सब्सिक्वेंट कॉस्ट, बट दैट सब्सिक्वेंट कॉस्ट विल गो टू द P&L एज रिपेयर्स एंड मेंटेनेंस कॉस्ट. But in a case like furnace, when you are doing relining of the furnace, so when you are doing the relining of the furnace, you are going to incur a major cost. And what is the outcome of this major cost? Outcome of this major cost that you are incurring on the relining of the furnace, the life of the furnace will increase. Number one. Number two, it is possible that the capacity of the furnace may also increase. And why do I say that the capacity of the furnace can also increase? Because with the passage of time you get new technology, and when you are doing the relining you are able to deploy the new technology, and because of the use of the new technology you are able to achieve even higher capacity from the same furnace. So when you incur a subsequent cost of this kind, three things can happen. Number one, the life of the equipment can increase. Number two, the yield of the equipment can increase. And number three, the capacity of the equipment can increase. In which case, cost that you incur, remember, you don't charge this cost to P&L. What you do with this cost? You add this cost to the property, plant and equipment. So the subsequent cost will be capitalized, and when I say capitalized, that means this cost will be added to the cost, to the carrying amount of the property, plant and equipment. And now the future depreciation will be charged on the original carrying amount plus the subsequent cost divided by the revised life of the property, plant and equipment. So because of the subsequent cost, you would know that the life of this asset has increased by so many years. So now this cost, carrying amount, initial carrying amount plus the subsequent cost, this is the total depreciable cost. Now, as we discussed in the beginning, this is the total depreciable cost. So this depreciable cost will be depreciated over the renewed life of the property, plant and equipment. And this, friends, is your recognition of subsequent cost as per Ind AS 116 of on property, plant and equipment. Right. So let me give you an example of recognition of subsequent cost, that the concept that I've just discussed with you. So a company bought a ship for $20 million. After 5 years, the ship had to undergo mandatory dry docking, and a cost of $3 million has to be incurred to maintain its seaworthiness. तो आपने $20 मिलियन में एक शिप खरीदा और 5 साल के बाद आपको इसकी मैंडेटरी ड्राई डॉकिंग करनी पड़ेगी, जहां पर आपको $3 मिलियन का खर्चा करना पड़ेगा. तो सवाल ये है कि ये जो $3 मिलियन का आप खर्चा करेंगे, what will you do? How will you record this $3 million of the cost that you incur on this ship? Will you take it to your P&L and will you capitalize it? So remember, you only need to find out, because of this additional cost, subsequent cost of $3 million that you are incurring, what is happening to your business? What is happening to your ship? The seaworthiness of the ship is increasing. If you don't do this dry docking after 5 years and incur this cost of $3 million, you will not be able to use your ship. So you would be able to use the ship only after doing the dry docking after 5 years and incurring this cost of $3 million. So that means this $3 million of the subsequent cost will be added to the carrying amount of the ship, and the depreciation will be charged on the total of the carrying amount and the subsequent cost. So this is how you will handle the property, plant and subsequent cost incurred in case of a property, plant and equipment as per Ind AS 16 on property, plant and equipment. Now, how do you do the subsequent measurement? Now, let me tell you at this point in time, what is the meaning of subsequent measurement? तो सब्सिक्वेंट मेजरमेंट का मतलब ये है कि जब आपने कोई प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट फर्स्ट टाइम परचेज किया, तो फर्स्ट टाइम पर आपने उसको इनिशियल जो मेजरमेंट किया, इनिशियल जो रिकॉग्निशन किया, दैट यू डू एट कॉस्ट ऑब्वियसली, एक्सेप्ट when this property, plant and equipment is coming to you by virtue of a business combination or by virtue of in exchange of another asset. So assuming that this asset that you are getting is on payment, so the initial recognition is going to happen on the cost. The subsequent recognition, तो आपने एक प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट, लेट मी गिव एन एग्जांपल, आपने एक प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट परचेज किया 10 करोड़ का, लेट्स से on 1st April 2019. 1st April 2019 को आपने एक प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट परचेज किया 1 करोड़ का. तो जब आपने ये प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट 1st April को परचेज किया, यू विल रिकॉग्नाइज दिस प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट in your books at the cost of 1 crore. Now on 31st March 20, the financial year is getting over. Now the question is, in the subsequent period, let's say on 31st March of 20 itself, okay, on 31st March 20, you do not make any change. You continue to recognize this property, plant and equipment at the cost only. So what you do, on the cost you charge depreciation. So cost minus depreciation becomes the carrying amount, and this carrying amount you carry it forward to the next financial year, which is 2021. Now on 31st March 21, you decide for some reason that you will not follow the cost model, you will follow the revaluation model. So there are two models for the subsequent measurement. Model number 1 is the cost model and model number 2 is the revaluation model. So model number 1 is clear to us. Model number 1 is the cost model. Cost model matlab jo cost that you have incurred, you record the asset in your books at that cost, and that is the cost model. So what is the revaluation model? Revaluation model is you do not show the asset at the cost, rather you ascertain the fair value of this asset on the balance sheet date. And whatever is the fair value of this asset on the balance sheet date, you decide to recognize the fair value of this asset in your books, and that is your subsequent measurement. So to sum it up, subsequent measurement, there are two options as per the Ind AS 1(6) on property, plant and equipment. Option number 1, continue the cost model. Option number 2, use the revaluation model. So how do you do the subsequent measurement? So subsequent measurement you will do number 1 based on the cost model. So cost model में क्या होगा? Cost model में cost of the equipment less accumulated depreciation less accumulated impairment cost. तो एक एसेट आपने खरीदी 1 करोड़ की, 10 लाख का उस पर डेप्रिसिएशन हो गया, एलएस से फॉर एग्जांपल 10 लाख का इम्पेयरमेंट कॉस्ट हो गई. सो यू विल शो दिस एसेट इन योर बैलेंस शीट एट 80 lakhs. And thank you, Sachin. And the second situation is you do the measurement on revaluation model. So how will you show at the revaluation model? For revaluation model, you will need to ascertain the fair value of this asset. So you find out the fair value of this asset, and from that fair value you minus the amount of accumulated depreciation. So that means the amount of depreciation that you have charged since the beginning of the asset till the financial year, end of the financial year, and also minus the accumulated impairment if there is any, and the difference will come in your books as your revalued value. So this is how you will do the subsequent measurement of an asset in your books. Either you can follow the cost model or you can follow the revaluation model. And please remember, you can follow the revaluation model only if you are able to ascertain fair value of this asset. If you're not able to ascertain the fair value of the asset, then you will not be able to use the fair value, you will not be able to use the revaluation model. Now there are certain conditions that you have to follow with regard to the revaluation model. The condition number 1 is revaluation should be made with sufficient regularity. So that means अगर आप revaluation model follow कर रहे हैं तो आपको हर साल revaluation model follow करना चाहिए. That means every at the end of the balance sheet, every end of the balance sheet, you must do the revaluation and show the asset at the revalued price. Items within the same class of property, plant and equipment should be revalued simultaneously. So as per the Ind AS 1(6) on property, plant and equipment, remember the revaluation model cannot be used selectively. It cannot be used selectively. Now what does it mean? It means if you decide to use the revaluation model, then you will have to use this revaluation model for all the assets of that group. And the group can be group or class, and the group or class can be land and building, it can be motor vehicles, it can be machinery, it can be office equipment. क्या मतलब है कहने का मतलब ये है कि अगर आप एक लैंड या बिल्डिंग को रिवैल्यू करना चाहते हैं, you cannot do that. So if you want to revalue, then you will have to revalue all the lands and buildings in your entity. If you want to show the motor vehicle at the revalued amount, then you will have to revalue all the motor vehicles. If you want to show the property, plant and equipment at the revalued amount, then you will have to do for all the property, plant and equipment. So remember, the condition is very simple. The condition is that the revaluation model cannot be used selectively for a particular item of the property, plant and equipment. It will have to be used as class. That means every item of that class of asset will have to follow the revaluation model. Now obviously, see what will happen. अब देखिए, समझ के लीजिए कि अगर आप revaluation model यूज कर रहे हैं for subsequent measurement of a property, plant and equipment, it means what? It means there are two possibilities. And what are those possibilities? Those possibilities are, number one, since you are revaluing an asset, it is possible that the revalue may be higher than the carrying amount. यानी कि जिस अमाउंट के ऊपर एसेट्स को आप आपकी बुक्स में आज दिखा रहे हैं, अगर आप उसको रिवैल्यू करते हैं तो रिवैल्यू की अमाउंट ज़्यादा हो सकती है. दैट मीन्स यू विल हैव अ प्रॉफिट. दैट इज सिचुएशन नंबर वन. So that means there is an increase in the revaluation. Situation number two, when you are doing the revaluation, it is possible that the revalued amount is less. So when the revalued amount is less, that means what? That means there's a decrease in the value of the asset. So there is a loss. So the question is, as an accountant, as an auditor, as a finance professional, as an accounting professional, how would you treat this revaluation in your books? So this is how the accounting will be done. So when you are revaluing an asset, which means you are finding out the fair value of an asset, and if you realize that the fair value of the asset is more than the carrying amount, that means there is a revaluation increase. So how will you account it for? So the amount of increase in the fair value, you will take it directly to the equity or in the statement of changes to equity under the revaluation reserve. That's number one. Number two, what you can also do is recognize it in the profit or loss to the extent that it reverses a revaluation decrease of the same asset previously recognized in profit or loss. So this is what you will do in case when there is a increase as a result of revaluation. The second situation is decrease. यानी कि आपने revaluation किया तो आपने जो fair value asset की निकाली, that fair value is less than the carrying amount. So when the fair value is less than the carrying amount, how will you account for this in your books? And this is how you will do it. So directly recognize it to profit and loss. So when you are when there is a decrease as a result of revaluation, there is a loss. This loss you take directly to the profit or loss. Number two, debited directly to equity to the extent of any credit balance existing in equity in respect of that asset. So this is the another adjustment that of course you can do. And then the third situation is derecognition. So what is derecognition? Derecognition is when an asset is worth nothing. When an asset is not going to give you any economic benefit whatsoever. That means this asset has got a zero value. And if this asset has got a zero value, this asset will need to be derecognized. So derecognizing meaning what? That means this asset will need to be removed from the books of accounts because it does not have any value. So in case of derecognition, what you will need to do, the revaluation surplus remaining in the equity may be transferred directly to retained earning. तो अगर आप एक एसेट को रिवैल्यूएशन के बाद डीरिकॉग्नाइज कर रहे हैं तो इस एसेट का अगर कुछ रिवैल्यूएशन सरप्लस पड़ा है, so this revaluation surplus will be directly transferred to the retained earning without taking it to the profit and loss account. And this is the treatment that you will do in case of changes in the revaluation reserve. Then we come to the depreciation. So remember, under Ind AS 16, there are three methods of charging depreciation. Number one, the straight line method, and a straight line method is, of course, what the value of the asset minus the salvage value minus the residual value. So the cost of the equipment minus the residual value divided by life of the asset in terms of years. So this will be the amount of annual depreciation, and in the normal course you will keep on charging this depreciation year after year. So when you plot this depreciation on a graph, what you will see a straight line, and that is why this is known as straight line method. The second method under the Ind AS is diminishing balance method. And what is diminishing balance method? So which is also is written down value method. So diminishing balance method is you charge depreciation on the diminished amount. So whatever is the written down value, you charge depreciation. So in case of straight line method, you will have the same amount of depreciation coming for all the years. In case of diminishing balance method, the amount of depreciation will keep on decreasing year after year. And then Ind AS also provides, Ind AS 16 also provides unit of production method. And what is unit of production method? So life of an asset, remember, can not only be ascertained in terms of number of years. As to this asset will have an economic life of 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. That means this asset will keep on giving you economic benefits for 30, 40, 50 years or whatever. The life of an asset can also be determined in terms of unit of production. That means what? That means a life of a equipment, life of a machine can be that this machine will produce 1 million bottles. So 1 million bottle becomes the life of this machine. So how will you charge depreciation under the unit of production method? So if let's say for example the cost of the machine is $1 million dollars, and the capacity is also 1 million bottles. So that means the depreciation is going to be $1 per bottle. तो अगर आपने पहले साल में 5 लाख बॉटल प्रोड्यूस कर दिए, कैपेसिटी है 1 मिलियन डॉलर्स की, 1 मिलियन बॉटल्स की कैपेसिटी है, 1 मिलियन बॉटल्स की, और आपने पहले साल में 5 लाख बॉटल्स प्रोड्यूस कर दिए. सो दैट मीन्स द डेप्रिसिएशन इन द वेरी फर्स्ट ईयर ऑन दिस मशीन is going to be equal to $5 lakh. So that is your unit of production method. Remember, when it comes to the depreciation method, that the three that I'm discussing with you, the straight line method, diminishing balance method, and also the unit of production method. These depreciation method, their useful life and their residual value should be reviewed at least once in a year. That means what? That means Ind AS 16 on property, plant and equipment requires that the entity at the end of the financial year should look in terms of the method of the depreciation charge, the useful life, kitna useful life baki hai, and the residual value. Take that into account and look at the depreciation computation afresh. So this is what is required as per Ind AS 16 on property, plant and equipment. Then friends, the Ind AS 16 also talks in terms of componentization of depreciation. This I'm sure is a new thing which was not there earlier in the Indian GAAP. So in Indian GAAP, you will charge depreciation on a machine as that one single machine. But Ind AS 16 talks in terms of componentization of depreciation. इसका क्या मतलब है? इसका मतलब ये है कि आपको एक मशीन के ऊपर you do not have to charge depreciation on the machine as a single machine. If that machine can be broken in terms of significant components. To give you an example, aircraft. So aircraft will have the engines and it will have the frame of the aeroplane. Now the engine and the frame can be separated. So the main body of the aircraft and the engines that are there in the aircraft, though they can be, the cost can be separated. And why the cost can be separated? Because by experience you will know that life of the engines and the life of the body of the plane is not same. The engines will have a shorter life and the body of the aircraft will have a longer life. So what is the meaning of componentization of depreciation? The meaning of componentization of depreciation is don't charge depreciation on the plane as a whole. Charge depreciation on the engines separately because its life is different. Charge depreciation on the main body of the aircraft differently because its life is different. So friends, that is your componentization of depreciation, which is prescribed under the Ind AS 1.6. That means what? That means as an accounting professional, as a finance professional, as an auditing professional, it is our obligation. It is our obligation that when we are looking at the financials of a company, we must identify, are there certain equipments, are there certain property, plant and equipment where the cost can be broken into different components, significant components. If the cost can be broken into significant components where the life of these components are different, then we must charge depreciation on these components separately. If the asset can be broken into different components and they are all significant components, but if life is same of all the components, then there is no point in charging depreciation separately. In that case, you must charge depreciation of that single item, because if the life is not different, then whether you charge depreciation separately or you charge depreciation as one single unit, it is going to be same. It's not going to make any difference. So remember, that is what you will need to do. So that is your decomponentization of depreciation. Now, one question that we need to answer under Ind AS is, when does depreciation cease? क्या मतलब है कहने का? कहने का मतलब यह है कि हमको किसी एसेट के ऊपर कब तक डेप्रिसिएशन चार्ज करना चाहिए या किस तारीख से डेप्रिसिएशन चार्ज करना बंद करना चाहिए. तो दो केसेस में हमको वी विल नीड टू स्टॉप चार्जिंग डेप्रिसिएशन. नंबर वन, द डेट ऑन विच द एसेट इज क्लासिफाइड एज हेल्ड फॉर सेल. So remember, under Ind AS 105, so 105 is on the assets held for sale or discontinued operations. तो इसका क्या मतलब है? एंड प्लीज पे अटेंशन. इसका ये मतलब है कि अगर एक बिजनेस ने जिसके कि 4-5 प्लांट हैं, अगर उसके मैनेजमेंट ने डिसाइड किया कि हमको 2 प्लांट बंद करके सेल करने हैं, बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स ने डिसीजन ले लिया, शेयर होल्डर्स ने भी अप्रूवल दे दिया, और अब ये 2 प्लांट बंद करने का डिसीजन ले लिया. नाउ एज पर Ind AS 105, these 2 plants will figure in the balance sheet of the entity not as an operating asset. They will reflect in the balance sheet of the entity as assets held for sale or discontinued operations. So obviously, if these assets are being held in the balance sheet not as an operating asset but asset held for sale, you will not have to charge depreciation on these assets. So you will charge depreciation on an asset only when this asset is a operating asset. The moment you take a decision to sell it off, it is no longer an operating asset. So you stop charging depreciation. That is number one. Number two, when the asset is derecognized. So जब एक asset की economic value has become zero, so that means this asset is not going to give you any value whatsoever. So you derecognize. So derecognize meaning what? You remove it from the books of accounts. So when you remove it from the books of accounts, obviously you don't charge any depreciation. So these are the two situations when under Ind AS 1.6 you will cease to charge depreciation. Then friends, Ind AS 1.6 talks about the impairment. And what is the impairment? I discussed with you earlier in the case of an example where you had an asset whose value was 1 crore, and for some reason the present value of that asset was coming to was coming to 80 lakhs, and the carrying amount, the realizable amount was coming to 90 lakhs. So carrying amount is 1 crore, present value is 80 lakhs, and the realizable value is 90 lakhs. So the recoverable amount is how much? Recoverable amount is higher of the present value, which is also known as value in use. So the recoverable amount is higher of the present value or the realizable value, whichever is higher. Present value is 80 lakhs, a realizable value is 90 lakhs, so the higher is 90 lakhs. This 90 lakhs is less than the carrying amount, which is 1 crore. So when the recoverable amount is less than the carrying amount, that means there's an impairment. So in this case, how much is the amount of impairment? In this example that we have discussed, the amount of impairment is 10 lakhs. Carrying amount is 1 crore. Recoverable amount is 90 lakhs. So the difference is 10 lakhs. That means this 10 lakhs need to be recognized in the P&L of the company as impairment loss of 10 lakhs. So that's your impairment loss. And the derecognition, friends, as we said, can happen. Number one, on disposal. तो आप एक asset को sale करते हो, तो it will need to be derecognized. Or when the asset does not have any economic value coming to you whatsoever, in that case also the asset will need to be derecognized. So when I say derecognized, that means it will need to be removed from the books of the accounts. And finally, friends, we come to the disclosures. So remember, as I said in the beginning, disclosures are very important. And I would like to repeat here once again, please remember, what is the purpose of the financial statements? The purpose of the financial statement is the user of your financial statement should be able to evaluate the performance of the entity. So what is the meaning of performance of the entity? Performance of the entity meaning, number one, the user should be able to find out how is the financial performance of the company, is the financial position of the company, and how are the financial cash flows of the company. So that is what the user should be able to find out. And number two, he should be able to take informed economic decision. And for that you prepare the financial statements. And for that you incorporate all these information. ये पक्का करने के लिए global accounting bodies came together and started IFRS. That IFRS have been adapted in India, and we call them as Ind AS. So and of that Ind AS family, Ind AS 1/6 is one part, and that Ind AS 1/6, besides all that I have discussed with you, also talks in terms of certain disclosures. So what disclosures are required as per the Ind AS 1/6 is number one, you need to disclose with respect to your financial statements and the property, plant and equipment as to what is the measurement basis that you have used, what is the depreciation method that you have used, what is the useful life of the different assets that you have, what are the depreciation rates that you have used, what are the gross carrying amount of the assets, what is the accumulated amount of depreciation of all the assets that you have in your balance sheet. And then you will also need to disclose, besides all this that I have mentioned, assets classified as held for sale, what are the acquisitions and the business combinations that you have done, what are the increases or decreases resulting from revaluation. So in case if you have moved from the cost model to the revaluation model, and as a result of the revaluation, the values of certain assets have either gone up or gone down. So what are those increases or the decreases in case of the revaluation? Impairment losses you will need to disclose in your financial statements, and impairment losses reversed, that also you will need to disclose in your financial statement, and net exchange differences arising on the translation of the financial statements. So all this, friends, will need to be disclosed in the financial statements as a result of Ind AS 1/6. And also you will need to make further disclosures in case if you have an asset and if there are any restriction on the title of that asset, that you will need to disclose. You have an asset, you have placed it, hypothecated, or you have mortgaged it with a bank, you will need to disclose that actually. There are any contractual commitment with regard to an asset, you will need to disclose that actually. So these are the disclosures, friend, that would need to be made in the financial statements of the entity under the Ind AS 16. So that means as an accounting professional, finance professional, and auditing professional, we have an obligation, we have a responsibility to ensure that we make all these all these disclosures. So in the financial statements that we make. So friends, with this we come to the end of today's session, and which was on Ind AS 16 on property, plant and equipment. I hope you enjoyed the whole discussion. And before I say goodbye to you, and before I take your questions, friends, stay home, stay safe. Let us fight this coronavirus together. And I would also urge all of you to please make special prayers every day when you go to sleep and when you wake up in the morning for all the corona warriors. So all the people, all the doctors, the police people, the medical people, the staff, the Jawans, everybody in the country is fighting, risking their life to ensure that our life is safe and secure. Please pray for them in the morning, pray for them in the evening. They are safe and secure, and they are hale and healthy. And the whole country successfully fights the coronavirus, and the whole country is out of this menace of the coronavirus. So with this, friends, we come to the close of this session. Thank you so much, and wish you wonderful times.